right, hi everybody. Welcome to tonight's live stream. All right, everything looks good on my end. Hopefully you can hear me, see me okay. Everything all good? All right. Okay, so some happy little hellos here to start off. Hi Michael. Hi Mina. Hi Rhonda. Hi Steve. Hello Beryl and welcome. Hi Cynthia. Awesome. See. Hi Desiree. Hi Estella. Hi Lisa. Hi Terry. Hi Night Owl. Hi Cindy. Fantastic. Okay. Hi Brian. Okay. Hi Kendale. Alrighty. Yes, we have taken a couple weeks break here, and let's see. Very happy to have everybody here. Hi Connie. I hope everybody had a lovely, lovely holiday. Tonight's beginner live stream is going to focus on just creating a simple feather. In this lesson, we're going to really focus on trying to make it just light and wispy without some of those darker strokes that we can really kind of get with wood burning. We're going to really try to avoid stop spots here around the edges and really just focus on a very wispy nature to it. So I went ahead and I transferred this on the front and the side that has been sanded. Hi Vicki. And I'll start by saying, first of all, I really appreciate over on Mighty Networks, everybody that filled out the little questionnaire that I posted regarding the future of our community and all that, to kind of see how I can make things best for you guys. So I really appreciate the input. I've been working really hard on trying to make things, really some nice improvements on the Mighty Network platform. Those aren't public yet, but we're working towards that. And one of the things that you guys really wanted to see is more of like how I decide what to transfer on in a photo. So I went ahead and transferred my image on here. You can see it looks, a fair bit different than the reference photo. But I'm going to take a couple moments here to show you kind of my thought process on transferring this. Mina has the link there in the chat if you're interested in joining our Mighty Network community. It is a paid community, but you get so many cool things. You get access to all of our past live streams. Everything's organized by skill level: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and premium. So depending on where you're ready to jump in with wood burning, there's a spot for you there. So definitely take a look at that. Take a look at that link that Mina threw in the chat, and see which little area works best for you. I'm working on making the community aspect richer and give you guys lots of little spaces to kind of explore and ask questions and all that. So that's coming very soon. Lisa says, I didn't think of this, but you're glad others did. Oh, you usually start with all the dark points and end up like when you transfer everything. Okay, yeah, that's a great thing to think about, and something that we're going to talk about is what to transfer, what not to transfer. And it kind of can vary depending on maybe what you need from the reference photo versus what you're comfortable just filling in on your own. Hi, Laura. So to start with, when we're transferring on something like this, the first thing that I am really going to be focused on is any real hard edges. So the first thing that I'm seeing here is this lovely ridge or the rib of the feather on both sides. That's the first thing that I'm going to put in. So I'm going to want to be as careful as I can here to start laying in the foundation and the framework of this rib. And with something so thin and wispy as this, no, don't scan. Stop it. Okay, why we're having to scan for stuff right now, I don't know, but it's doing it. I don't even know if it can let me stop. All right, it's gone. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Oh boy, Kendall, you're working pretty long hours. So, okay, hang in there if you can. Otherwise, take a look. You can watch this later over on Mighty Networks at your leisure. So, with something so thin and wispy like this, we want to kind of draw on the outer edges of this light white rib area. So I'm going to try to stay on the outer edges so I don't make that completely disappear. And I am using graphite paper. I'm sorry that I forgot to mention that. That is my transfer method of preference because I get to choose exactly what I add to the project or not. So this is why, yeah, I really like this method of transfer. There are some other ones out there. You guys are interested in learning more about that, and I will kind of work towards trying to figure out some more of those. But for right now, graphite transfer is my favorite. So Terry, I am tracing in black, you noticed. So if you look here really closely, since I already traced the lines in red, in order for me to repeat what I transferred on here, I'm going to go over it in black just so that I can keep the transfer the same. But yes, I transfer in red. That's generally what I like to do because it's easier for me to see. But I am transferring today in black just to go over the red lines so I don't miss anything. Okay, so now that I have that main ridge, those are our hard edges within this project for the most part. Let's see, I can maybe zoom in a little bit if that helps. Next, thinking as a beginner and something that I did as a beginner, I would have jumped in here and I would have done a chunky outline all the way around everything. I would have chunked the whole thing. And that's not going to give me the freedom of expression that I want. I want some of these things to be very wispy and they kind of just free flow. So that's where I don't want the transfer to be too much, is anytime that I have these soft lines that just kind of dance off and disappear into the background, I don't want to put in super heavy lines to outline that whole thing. I want that to be softer. Next up, anything that is going to be very dark, we'll put in. There's row after row after row of little feather, I don't even know, feather bits in here. I don't want to transfer them all on because if you overwhelm your wood with graphite, there's no light coming through your subject and you're going to wind up burning everything too dark. And I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to be pretty selective on what I transfer on here. Terry, you trace in red as well. Good. Brian, you use an iPad program called Camera Lucida to help with transferring. Very cool. Lisa, you like to use a stylus to trace. Just a sharp thing. You find that you use less pressure when using a stylus because you tend to press too hard when using pens. Gotcha. I've tried using a stylus, but for me, because I can't see where my lines are on the reference photo, I kind of struggle with that because I use these lines that I'm putting in with pen as like my markers. They're my guidelines to follow. That way I don't have to transfer everything on, especially with a super detailed project. So what I want to capture right now is the flow of the veins of the feather. I don't even know what to call them, the little stripy things. They need to go in a consistent manner. So all I'm going to do is start I'm going to skip a little bit, but I want to capture the general nature of how these move, especially in the darker areas, and then I can wisp out. If you, just like with wood burning, if you start out here and put down a hard line and draw in, it's going to be a little bit not a very good transition. So for some of these, I'm going to start where it's darkest and come up and then wisp out like that. And you can see on the reference, this side, it's going to fade versus just over here, this is the back side. If I just set down and go like that, I'm going to have a pretty harsh line there. But if I start here and then wisp upward, it just makes it a little bit easier as far as a gentle transition. And that's what we want when we start burning. Terry, yes, thank you for the reminder to like, subscribe if you like this, and especially subscribe and then hit the bell for the notifications so that you won't miss when we go live next. Desiree likes to use a mechanical pencil. Cool, very good. A 0.05. You find that the ballpoint makes a larger line than you care for. That's a great option as well. Yep. Awesome. Okay, so based on where I am, I want kind of these nice little chunky sections here, but I'm not going to come through and transfer on every single little line. But we have some gaps. Those are good to put in there. And anytime that the direction changes, I want to put those in as well. Especially working on kind of our darker areas. All right, so there we're starting to get just some nice little wispy chunks is what I'm going for right now. As we get down here into these lighter areas, I don't want to put everything in. I'm just going to put a few place markers. They're just going to hold the place for me to find later. Same thing over here, very light and wispy. Focusing on the darker sections. Anytime I see a really big deviation of the pattern, I'm going to go ahead and put those in as well. It's much easier for me on this side since I'm right-handed. So these are just bench place markers to keep me, kind of give me a place to start once we start working. Okay. And again, that's why I really like the graphite paper, is because I can pick and choose what I add to the picture and what I leave out. And I think that kind of depends on the subject. Sometimes I need more data. I need more information in there. All right, and again, this side hasn't been sanded and it's kind of rough, but this is our practice one here. And then this will be more of our fine-tuning one. We'll just see where we go. As far as points, there's a few different ones that you can use. Probably first of all, now that I have these in place, I do like to sand them down, especially with something light like this. Let me see if I can zoom out a bit more, because I know you guys like to see the reference photo as well. Okay, so we're just going to take our sander and knock down those graphite lines a bit so they're lighter. Next, we want to think about what points can create fine, thin lines. So that's, as a beginner mindset, what we need to figure out next. Hi, Barbara. Sorry, hope I'm not missing anybody there in the chat. Okay, so I know you guys know that I love using the Versatool and the shading point, and this, I'm just going to come over here, is good at creating those nice fine wispy lines. You just want something that you can set it down and be darker and then fade out. So that is fine. As far as solid point burners, you've got the shading point. We also have, you could do a ballpoint as well. Awesome, Barbara. I'm glad you love the calendar. Thank you. So a ballpoint can do the same thing, where you start, you'll have to move a little faster and then wisp away. So that's a good one as well. One of the points that I don't usually show very often, much at all, is the universal point with the Versatool. And so this can do a very similar, just holding it on that edge and fade out. So that's going to be your goal, is just to find a point where you can get that nice feathered kind of line work. Hi, Amy. No worries. You don't have to apologize for anything. We are happy to answer questions. Does the graphite show through the light burns? Yes. And so that's kind of why when I do really light burns, like contours for faces and portraits, I will sand with a little sanding pad. I will sand those graphite lines until I can just barely see them. You can't really erase graphite lines with a normal pencil eraser, so I like to use graphite. I like to erase the graphite with just a little sanding pad. You can get any kind of sandpaper. I like the ones that have a little squishy foam backing because it's nice and gentle to the surface of the wood. So yeah, I strongly advise sanding before burning, because if you burn over those graphite lines, it kind of like seals them or sets them into the wood, and it's a little bit harder to get rid of those. So definitely sandpaper is your friend when it comes to getting rid of those graphite lines. Another thing with the graphite lines is, and this is my practice side here, how hard you press down when transferring will make a big difference. So if I press down really hard versus a little bit lighter, that will change the line work here. So this one's going to go really light, and that's a big help. You're welcome, Amy. Yep, lovely question. So when I have areas that are really have a hard edge, like this rib down the feather, I can press down a little harder on the graphite paper and it'll transfer down darker. On these wispy edges, I want a lighter pressure manually with the pen. And then the sanding pad, Mina put the link in there for the sanding pads. So if you don't have any of these sanding pads, you can take a look at Mina's link there in the chat. Thank you, Mina, for adding that. These come in different grits. But you'll be able to sand. The lighter ones will start disappearing much quicker. It just takes a little bit more sanding. So very good question. Okay. So those are some options that I would use for a feather subject like this if I was using a solid point burner. Next, if I'm going to be using a wire tip burner, you're going to want, again, something that has a nice thin edge. So here's a little knife edge there. This was a round shader that I kind of sanded and made it pointy. And then you have a spoon shader here. But there's other nibs, skews that you can get. These are kind of some of the ones that I have on hand that can make nice lines. Let's see. Vicky, you can get the graphite off with a white eraser. That's good. Good. Oh, Terry, you rock. The veins in a feather are called barbs, which branch off from the central shaft known as the rachis. Each barb has smaller branches called barbules that interlock to form the feather's surface. That is so cool. I love it, Terry. We learned something new. Thank you for sharing. That is fantastic. Okay, so just to give you guys an idea of how these work, yeah, these are the most applicable ones I think that I have. Now this is for the razor tip, and we're just gonna plug these in here. And the thinner the wire tip, the lower the temperature you need. It's gonna really hold that heat. So right now I'm gonna start at a level 5, and you'll wanna hold that nice up. It's very, very nice and sharp and crispy. So very cool. And I can even jump in here a little bit to show, well, yeah. Awesome, Amy. I love the sanding pads. They're just fantastic. So once you pick your point, I don't usually work with wire tips, so you'll have to kind of get used to how it curves, but you can get some really fun wispy strokes with this. Let's see, we also have a spoon shader, which is a little chunkier, so I'm going to turn the temperature up to maybe a 6 on the razor tip, and I would turn it upside down and work like this. So even at a 6, that's a little bit, of course I just turned it on. I would play around. If you're a brand new beginner and you're not sure how to go about tackling something like this, definitely, this is the back side of the project. We'll get to the front side here in a bit, but take some time. Don't feel like you're wasting wood. Turn the piece over and just start doodling. That is, I think, one of the best ways for beginners to learn is figure out, okay, well, this point, I can handle pretty well, but sometimes not so much. And figure out what you can do with each point. Awesome. Thanks, Terry. Mina is asking if I'm using the airplane mode with that point. So a lot of times with the feather, it's going to be darkest here. I can't remember the terms, but I'll work on that. I can't even say the central shaft there. Okay, the center shaft here of the feather is, here you can see on the reference photo, that's where your darkest values are going to be centered. So think of it like a sink where all of the little feather bits, they sink down to that center shaft, and that is where you're going to want your darkest values, is right in there. So in this case, the airplane mode where you land and take off may not work. What I really want to do is like a single stroke. So you're going to put the burner down and then quickly flare off and do a wispy takeoff. So you're not really landing and taking off, you're just taking off as far as our airplane terminology. So let me switch to this point and I'll kind of explain with that as well. If I were to kind of do an airplane mode and swoop in, I don't even know what temperature I am. Yeah, it's a bit dark. Okay. If I kind of swooped in, I might miss that connection point there. But if I go ahead and I start as an airplane and then take off, you're going to have to modulate your heat. But that's what I would suggest, is you set and take off. Set and take off. Kind of like that. And this is just a practice. I highly encourage you to start doodling. Just see what you can do with each point. And have fun. That is the best way to learn, absolutely, is just to see what you can do. So those are some great points for both of the burners. Any questions at this point with just trying to figure out which point that works best for you? And practice these strokes and try to get a handle of getting as close to that center shaft that you can and then wisp out. You're just an airplane that's taking off and running away. The sharper your point is, the more difficult the grain can be for you. That grain can really interfere with the point. But I strongly recommend starting at the center shaft and then swooping out. If you start at the top and come down, it kind of does the opposite effect. We're too dark out here and we're too light at the center point. So we want to focus, our darkest values are going to be here along the center shaft. And then next we're going to talk about texture versus shading. So right now this is all texture, and we can sit here and we can just chunk in all kinds of this texture again and again and again, and that's good. And I'm just gonna start playing around and filling in here, and I'm just doing one motion, just swoop, swoop, swoop. And the more that you can fill in, try to vary how dark or how, boy, that really cut down in there, how light and how dark these are. You guys know I don't usually work with a wire tip burner, but you have challenged me to try. So, hello Log Burns, welcome. Do I ever use a dreamer or a Dremel to sand areas down and create dramatic highlights? I haven't, Dremel. I haven't, but I have used like a knife blade to kind of scratch areas out. That's fun. But you certainly can use a Dremel tool to scratch in some highlights. A lot of times I like to just leave little bits of unburned wood hanging in there for the highlights. So, but if you kind of like overburn, yes, you can always go back and put those in as well. Night Owl is asking if the Versatool is not good for this. Night Owl, the Versatool is great for this, but I know that a lot of you guys mentioned that you don't work with the Versatool. You want more of the wire tip. So I'm going to do both tonight. So the back side here is going to be pretty messy because I don't usually work with a wire tip. And then we'll just kind of play around and experiment here, work on some questions, and then I'll flip the wood burning over, and then we'll kind of do some other ideas. You're very welcome, Log Burns. Yeah, this is very texture. This is all texture that we're putting in here. So after you start getting in some texture, and for your wire tip burner people, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. And then you can come back in and start adding in a little bit of shading, and realize that you're going to be darkest here along that center bit. And then you're also going to have some darker areas on this feather right up there. Let's see. Yeah, Kendale, if you blow on the wire nib, same as a solid burner, it helps to cool it down and you get more control. Very good point. Yeah, a lot of people like to use both types of burners. So now that I have just base texture, think of like fish bones on a feather. We've got some pretty good fish bones in there. Next, I'm going to attempt to get some side shading in here, and I'm going to focus that shading along the center shaft of that feather. And you'll start to see that I'm building more depth, and our feather isn't going to look so scratchy. But we want that texture in there first, so it gives it almost kind of form like bones to a skeleton. And then the shading comes in, and that's your, your more softer skin, muscle, however you want to think about that. But the texture is really the skeleton, I think, of the project. And I'm at a level 5, a little bit less than a level 5 with this round shader that I made pointy. Let's see. Terry says you've got to find a place to plug in your Versatool by itself. Yeah, definitely if you put it on a bigger circuit, it doesn't heat up as well. It needs its own space. So I'm going to add just some softer texture up here towards the top to give it just a little bit more form. Log Burns is asking, do you do all the dark shading and lines first and then go lighter, or does it depend on the scenario? Great question. I would say it definitely depends on the scenario. For something like this, I'm going to go for the darks and the texture first. If we're talking about a portrait with a really soft, smooth skin, I'm going to sneak up on that very carefully and do layer upon layer to fill in the softness of the face. But to create any sense of realism, you need two things. You need your texture and your shading. And so right here with our wire tip, we've got a lot of texture, and then you got to start adding in some of your shading. And the texture gives it form, and the shading just softens everything out and kind of fleshes it out, rounds it out a little bit. So for our wire tip folks, this is a good kind of example on how to do this. You can always come back and add layers. And just give it a little bit more. Let's see. Lisa's asking, so you are not going to line out the center of the feather with burn lines? Oh, I haven't yet, but that's a good point. I haven't yet, but yes, I would outline that as well. Sometimes it helps to get some of your crazy lines done first, and then you can kind of fill in here. Yes, I would definitely fill this in. Thank you for that reminder there. And then that really accentuates the center part of the feather. But this is going pretty well. I do like this point. This is probably one of my favorite points with the wire tip burner. But it's just going to be a balancing act of those texture lines and then softening it with some shading. Oh dear. Let's see. Terry, no, I did not sand this side at all. This is just rough. This is my practice side here. So hopefully that kind of gives you guys more of a beginner start to what we're doing here. Okay, I'm gonna switch over. We'll start working on the the real side here, and we can kind of work out some other challenges here. Log Burns, you're working on your first big paid project on a guitar. Oh wow, you are most welcome for the questions. That's what we do here, is just start throwing out questions and working through problems and trying to get this kind of gathered up into bite-sized pieces so that we can manage it. So Lisa, you said that's interesting. You would do the ribbing first, so we can do that. We can do the ribbing. Now, as far as what I would choose to do that with, there are some lovely artists that do fantastic line work. Very smooth, consistent, beautiful lines. And I can be challenged sometimes with the lines. I do better with, more shading and depth and stuff like that. But if we want to put in that center rib first, just find a point that you really like. You guys know that I like this one. It's the shading point. But the questionnaire that you guys filled out has really helped me to kind of see where I need to learn more and go back to kind of the drawing board and figure out how best I can serve you all. So I really appreciate everybody's feedback. I'm going to practice here for a minute with this one. This is the universal point on the Walnut Hollow. Wow, that's pretty dark there. So I'm going to practice on the back side here, and as a beginner that is just a really great thing to do, because I do tend to get a little bit over perfectionist, but I think this will work. So I'm going to try it. I don't think I've really shown to use this point very much. All right, here we go. So for line work, this is so much easier than the shading point. I will say that. Definitely makes a much nicer line and more quickly. So I'm blowing on the point just a little bit to try to control it. I thought it was a little bit darker than I wanted when I first started. Amy, you are most welcome for the videos. Your burner doesn't come in until the 12th. You've been making your way through the videos. Awesome. That is really cool. The train is what inspired you to try the art form. That is awesome. I'm very honored for that. Thank you. I would say in the meantime, even just practicing with a pencil can be a good way just to practice your lights and your darks. That's really all that wood burning is lights and darks. So kind of playing around with that is a good way to get started. I tell you what, you guys have pushed me so much over the years to do more and to think outside the box and to try new things, and I thank all of you very much for that as well. As far as, that kind of went crazy, but all right, we'll fix it later. Wow, I like that. That worked really good for the outlining. I think I need more practice. For sure, just because I don't usually use this. But there we go, Lisa. There's our center section there. That worked much better than the shading point. Terry, you're saying you would start at the center and work your way out. Perfectly fine. Lisa says we need a drum roll. Oh, you guys have drums. Thanks, guys. Okay. Cynthia says you cut into the wood with this tip. Yeah, it definitely does. Turn the burner down. Another thing that I forgot to mention on this is I sanded this down as well. I don't know how well you can see, but I dulled the edges. And I know we've talked about modifying points, and I think I have an original here. Oh, no, those are actually Altoids. Haha! I keep all my points in Altoid tins, and that was actually mints. Here we go. No, where is it? I'll try the other one. These are great for storing your points. Oh, here's one. No. Oh, there's one. Okay, got one. Okay, so this is how that universal point comes standard, and you can see it is very sharp and pointy. I don't like the sharp pointy points because I find them harder to control. So I did take just some mild sandpaper and rough this up a bit. So you can see, hopefully, that mine here is much more softer than this sharp pointy guy here. So don't be afraid to modify your points if you need to, which I usually do. So Cynthia, just take this. In fact, I'll show it now. We'll just work on that. This is what the beginning point is all about. Or sorry, the beginning live streams is all about, as far as how can we make your life easier. So here I have a 320 grit sand pad, and we have a very, very, very sharp point, and I'm just going to start dragging this along there, and then I'm going to go straight. I usually go straight down because when you go up it kind of stabs the sandpaper, and then roll it to the side a little bit, like a 45 to the side, and we're just gonna sand that down a little bit while we go here. Thanks, Terry. All right, we're gonna flip it over the other way. We're going to sand on that other side. Aw, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate your kind words. Night Owl, I have not worked on my personal project since fall. There's been so much in my personal life, I have not had a chance. So that already is smoothing that off quite nicely. Now let's work on that sharp tip there. So I'm going to turn it over, and I want to drag down on that and just wear down that brass point. They're brass, they're very soft. It doesn't take a whole lot here. Terry, oh yeah, the Altoid tins, that's where it's at. That's where I keep my points. All right, so we're going to work a little bit here more on the tip right there. Barbara, yeah, just don't eat, think you're getting an Altoid and you eat a wood burning point. That would not be good. All right, so now I'm gonna kind of go at an angle and just go back and forth. And I'm gonna shake everything, so I'll go like this. And then rotate it the other way. And you just wanna just soften it up a bit. So that didn't take very long at all, and it is much better. And that was with a 320 grit. And then if you want to kind of polish it, possibly take off any burrs, here's a 600 grit. You just repeat the same process. You just want to wear that point down, dull it a little bit, and then it won't dig in and be really super sharp like that. Hi, Lori Lee. You have a logistic question. You said that the Versatool is better on its own power source. You've noticed problems when you teach workshops that you can't get good heat even when turned up to 100%. Yeah, I think the more that you plug into like an outlet or a power strip, the more it's going to pull that heat down, and that is going to be a challenge. You have to share power strips. How do I keep the heat up? That's a really good question. It'd be expensive, but you could get like little power packs, like Jackeries. There's other portable battery powered things that might work, but that's a really good question. I don't know. I haven't taught classes like that yet, but that's a very good question. Something I'll continue to think about. Terry, you call this the chisel tip. Yep. Terry's asking, is this the same way I sand down the point to get the pro point? No, I actually have to use a Dremel tool to turn the shading point into this guy here. I have to actually carve out with a high-powered tool to get that one. But here you go. Now we have taken that super, super sharp point down to something manageable. It's not going to dig in near as much. Like the other one would have drawn blood. So sand them down, rough them up, make them dull. And it's, I think, a big thing. It's huge. I don't like new points. They're too scratchy. Mellow Yellow, hi. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so that's just a little tidbit on how to modify some of those points and make them softer. Okay, so you guys like to challenge me, and I try to rise to the challenge. Let's do something new here. And I'm going to continue working with this universal chisel point. And let's start working on some of our little structures here. This is going to be harder. I don't know quite where the, oh, there we go, where the edge is. Hey, that's not bad. This is definitely going to give a crisper edge than the shading point. I think it'll make things go faster as well. So I want to really focus on the structure that I chose on this. So I'm really just using the upper tip. You could probably put more, lay it flatter on that edge, but I don't know. It's working pretty good just using the upper tidbit here. So this is our structure. This is our framework, our bones. Yeah. See, let me see. Okay. Now, the farther down that we get here, we're going to want to move faster for those wispy areas. I don't think that I can make that curve very well with this point, so I'll do those here in a little bit. But I'm going to try new things and new points, and we'll just see if we can't learn together, because that's what this is all about. This is going to be a little bit more of a difficult angle for me, so I might have to turn the wood. I think I will. So whatever, you know, right-handed, left-hand, whatever your hand position, definitely turn the wood. Make it easier for you to make this flow and work. Yeah. Okay, so that one went really crazy. But that's the cool thing about these feathers, is that it's not like we're burning an eyeball or something very, very realistic. If your lines go off a little bit, that's okay. We'll make it work later. But this is all done with a single stroke. We want to set down right here close to that center shaft, and then wisp outward. And that's our main goal with our feathers. You guys are awesome. I'm glad that everything is helping. I'm glad that the tutorials are helping. You guys continue to teach me as well, and that's much appreciated. All right, same thing. I'm going to save those wispy guys, probably with the Pro Point. No, shading point. Sorry, I'm reading and not thinking. Brian, what do you call the bean bag? This is used for like a computer mouse to rest your hand on while you're using a computer mouse. And I do have some on my Wood Burning University Amazon page. And I think Mina probably has the link for that. But I love them. They're great. When you're dealing with a solid point burner where the handle is farther away from the point, you're going to want something to prop this up. You can use a wadded up sock. Just ball up a sock, especially if you're short on funds. I tried even putting like rice in a sock, and then it kind of crumbled. You get crumbles out of the sock, so not the best on the rice. But these are just little beans in there, and you can stretch it and fold it however you need to get your hand in the right position. All right, so now that I have kind of my skeleton, this is my skeleton of the feather, I'm going to go through and I'm going to start adding in some more little areas. Terry says buckwheat husks might work. Oh, barley. Maybe barley would work too. Okay. So let's analyze for a minute here how to move forward. Lisa says don't let the burner touch that little pad. It'll put a hole in it. Yeah. Gotta be careful with that one. All right, another thing that you guys were wanting a little bit more of is the thought process as far as how I go about. Mina, that one's no longer available. Darn it. Okay, I'll look for another one and get that up on the store. It's just a mouse pad wrist rest is all it is. They come and go. I've had to change that on the store a few times. Okay, so how do we move forward? And now that we have our base structure here, let's go ahead and take a look at our reference photo and kind of think through it and analyze it here a little bit. Next, I'm going to look for lights and darks. As we're problem solving here, I have this wonderful collection of darks right in here next to that center vein. I also have some darks kind of centered along this shadowed, like if the light source was coming from up here. So we have some darks in here, we have some darks here, but generally we're going to have darks at the tip and at the base, and we're going to be lighter in the middle. That's going to give it that roundedness that we want to achieve. If I just come in here now that I have the structure, I just start, okay, let's just keep putting in more structure, it's going to look like a dead fish. It's going to be too textured. It's going to be too bony. So we want to make it a little softer. So take a look at your reference photo, see where the lights are, see where the darks are. Right here we're having all kinds of lovely little darks down in here and up here at the tip. And then right here in the center, that's your golden zone there. We don't want to overburn these areas right in here because we want the unburned wood to show through and really give some light to your project. This other side is a little bit more simple. We mostly just have some darks, some lighter darks, midtones right in here along the stem, and then it kind of fades out. So now we have a plan moving forward. We're going to make sure that we focus darks down here at the top, and then anytime that we have kind of like a little shadowy area. So basically all I did here was burn over the marks that I transferred on. Next we are going to, I'm probably going to switch over to the shading point because that's one that I just really love and am able to work with quite well and quite quickly. So I figured this would be about an hour-long class, but with, you know, backtracking and showing you guys more of the basics as far as how I transfer things on, how I go about troubleshooting. Yeah, this will be a full class. So here we go. So next up, I'm going to, yep, here we go. Now the show begins. Now that we have the base work done there. So we're going to continue to put in some of the lighter lines. We want to continue to follow the idea that we started. A single stroke here. I'm setting down right next to that center ridge and swooping out. That one got a little bit far away, but that's okay. Feathers aren't perfect. And here we go. We're just going to start giving it some meat and potatoes. We have the bones, now we need the meat. The meat and the muscle. But I am still following the general structure of our feather here. And some of them can be S-curved in here. They don't have to just be simple curves. This is going to be layer 1. We're going to go back in and we're going to darken up some of the areas that we need. But this is just more framework, but in a lighter value. And then so I have this notch in here. I want to make sure that I don't miss that notch. Where am I? Oh, here I am. No? All right, so if I lose my place, sometimes you can go like this. Whoops. Don't burn yourself. And then flip up and down. Oh, I did lose that. Okay. So I kind of lost that notch in there, but we'll just make it up as we go. I got a little bit sidetracked there. Okay. So all I'm going to do is move that notch down a little bit. And we're going to go right here. Whee! There's our new notch. With organic stuff like this, if you make a mistake, nobody's going to know other than you. So that's okay. Just don't let it stop you. Just keep on moving forward. Okay, where are we? Yeah. So yeah, I kind of just lost a few of my sections here, but that's okay. Hey guys. Sorry. Another time. So yeah, I lost some of my notches in there, but that's just because I wasn't paying attention to where they're supposed to be. Let's see. Awesome. Yeah, I completely lost my place. So I missed that notch, and that's one of the reasons that I loved this reference. It was because of these little spaces in here, these notches. And I missed that one. I lost it, but I'm just going to put in a new one. That's all I can do. You can go back and try and scratch stuff in or change things a little bit, but it's a feather. It's not going to be the end of the world if I just make a new little notch in there. And in that case, as a beginner, since I made that mistake and I missed my notch, if I don't want to miss those notches, I need to transfer on a little bit more information. And that's just a good learning opportunity there. If you make a mistake, remember it and think, okay, well, how did I make this mistake? How can I not make this mistake next time? So in that case, I would probably transfer on a little bit more data and get more of those edges, and then I should be fine to go. Okay, so there is stage 1 on that side. Terry, it is light enough. We could scratch it out. Yes, very true. So we're gonna just keep doing those single strokes. No real airplane. We're just taking off. We're not landing and then taking off. So here we want to really follow the shape of these lines here. Lisa, you love that I'm showing how to work through the common mistakes that we all make. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. I can remember where I'm at. A lot of times I can, but while multitasking, yeah, it kicked my butt on this one. Definitely made an error there. Just a mistake. It's okay. It's fine. It's easy to lose your place on stuff like this. So just wispy. Right now I'm not really worried so much about, the lights and the darks. I'm just filling in a little bit, maybe some of the light bones. We have the big bones in place, our big texture. Now we're going to put in the lighter bones, just the lighter little bits to fill in. Awesome. Thanks, Mina. Yeah, Mina has the link there to my Amazon shop. I am an affiliate on Amazon, so if you buy something there, it gives just like, they give me a little bonus. It doesn't cost you guys anything extra. Amazon just says thank you and gives me a little bit as a thank you. All right, so maybe we'll do this fluffy stuff down here at the bottom in a bit. Oh, Barbara says, at least it's a feather and not a zebra. I have done a wood burning of a zebra, and I tell you what, that was one of the most difficult projects, just figuring out which stripe you're on. Because if you mess up and you do the wrong stripe, then you're going to have a problem. Okay, so here's our next stage. We just kind of filled in a little bit more of the information there. Now I want to take another layer, and I'm going to start thinking, we'll work on this side. Our darks are nestled in here near the center, and then they fade out. So it's just a gradient. We're going to add another layer. You can go a little bit slower if you want it to be darker. We're just going to continue doing what we're doing, but we're going to stay focused, not all the way out. We're just going to burn about half of the way. And all these layers are just fantastic. And you can see I'm kind of skipping some of those areas. What I don't want to do is come in here and just start shading the whole thing like this. This is something I don't want to do, because if I shade everything like this, I've lost the light. There's the light that shines through from the highlights of the feathers. They're gone now. And so then you're going to have to probably use a scratching tool or a Dremel tool, something like that. So we don't want to do a solid shade. No! My beanbag just jumped onto the floor. Okay. So layer number 2, we're still doing the same thing, but we're keeping some of that lovely light that is coming through the area here. And so by just adding another layer, we are building up our values. Do you need this? Here you go. There you go. And pick the point of your choice. I'm going for a nice soft, okay, yeah, I can zoom in, thanks. Let me see if I can move stuff over a bit more for you. So I've had both a bit of feedback as far as, I'm not zoomed in enough or I'm too zoomed out. Hang on. let's take off some of the fluff here. And get you guys a little closer. How's that? Okay. Terry says, I'd be having all kinds of dots. You're still not good with airplane mode of laying down easy. Need to practice more. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Terry, I would say just take a scratch piece of wood and start playing. And just, right now we're not really doing the airplane mode. We're setting and then leaving. And if you get those stop spots, they're going to be right in the center. And you can see I have some in here that kind of overlapped a little bit. And if you want, we can, let's switch to the universal point. And I'm going to turn it down a bit. And we can add in some more texture here as well. Night owl, yes, we can do some overlapping feathers too. Oh, that's funny, Lisa. I don't think you guys are going to melt my brain too bad. So, you know, we can start putting in some more of these here. It's just up to you which point you want to use. Just keep in mind you need a balance of texture and shading. Some points are going to give you more of one and less of the other. So right now this is a good way to get some more texture in place. Yeah, I just got to be careful. I went over my center line there. So anytime you use a new point that you're not familiar with, just figuring out where it lands. When you set it down on the wood, where is it going to go? That's a big part of just playing and doodling and doing some practice. But this definitely goes a little bit faster. It's more texture, less shading, but we can kind of just have a blend here. And I'm all over the board here, guys, on techniques. I know a lot of times I stick with just one and then we work through it, but I know that you guys wanted to kind of play around and try some new things, and so that's, I think, a great idea. And for the beginners, try not to get overwhelmed. Your main thing is, I would say, number one, play with the points. Just play around, doodle, see what you can do with different points. That is the best, most fantastic way to learn. Just start doodling. You'll learn what the points can and can't do. And then your next thing is like textures. Start playing around with different textures. What can you create with the different points? What can you achieve with those? So still I'm just focusing right here on the center. I went way over that center line, but that's okay. We'll figure that out later. Then after you get your textures, kind of play around with the textures, work on lights and darks. Because that's where the life is going to be in your project, is your lights, your darks, and your textures. Oh no, Desiree, your brain fried a long time ago. Okay, we may have to do another feather texture because I'm throwing a lot of information out there for like different burners and types and tools. But really, we just need to break it down. Looking at the reference photo here, darks towards the center, darks towards the outer edge. We have nice feather structure. And practice and have fun. I mean, that's the biggest part, is having fun. Okay, so I want some of these areas a little darker towards the edge here, so I'm going to start putting those in. I never use this point, but it is nice for these lines. So I'm doing the same thing as far as a single stroke. And I guess I should explain a single stroke. So a single stroke is when you just set the point down and lift. Now that point I did not lift off gradually, so I got a stop spot. So if you imagine you're in an airplane taking off. You're sitting on the tarmac and you're going to take off and into the air. That's a nice single stroke. If you're doing more of the airplane mode, you're going to want to, you're in the air as your airplane, you're going to come in, touch down on the runway, travel, and then take off again. So that's your full airplane mode. And then you can kind of do a back and forth, kind of a double, triple stroke. But a single stroke for me is just you start and then go. I hope that makes sense. Lisa, you used the Versatool on your new piece. Cool. Yeah, Desiree, your owl is looking lovely. I think your feathers and everything are just beautiful. I say keep at it, keep going. And I'm sorry if this one maybe is getting a little bit complicated. Let's keep working through it though. This is our this is why we're here. We're going to work through challenges and see what we can do to resolve them. So I did some nice dark at the base. Now I'm coming around here. I'm going to do darker ones here. Now keep in mind feathers are so different. There are so many different feathers. Depends on your light source as far as how things go. Just really try to look at your picture and see where your lights are, where your chunks are, where your texture is. Oh, Amy says the plane coming in and landing is a touch and go. Yep, I love it. Alrighty. I will remember that. Touch and go. We have a friend that's in the military as a pilot. I should have remembered that. So this is very different from what I normally create. I don't know if you guys see it too. If I were to do all of this with the Versatool, it would be much softer. It wouldn't have the crispness that this is getting. But it's fun. It's fun to try different things and see what works best for you. You guys have definitely challenged me this year to push outside of my comfort zone and learn as much as I can about other methods getting me out of my rut. Ah, your husband's on active duty. Yep. Gotcha. So, Desiree, you say that what's confusing you. Can you elaborate more on what it is that's confusing you as far as the strokes, or just go ahead and elaborate a little bit more, because that's what we're here for, is just to kind of work through some of the questions and the challenges and try to find a way to keep moving forward. Lori Lee, you never notice that there is dark on the tips. Yeah, in this picture there are darks on the tips. Not always. It really depends on your reference photo. It depends on the type of feather. depends on the color of the feather, the patterns. But yeah, in this case, it is darker on the tips. And so that, you can see we're starting to get a little bit of a roundedness right here in the middle where it's dark on the edges and lighter in the middle. Jezreel, the difference between the work with the two tips at once. Okay, gotcha. Night Owl is asking if the feather picture falls under line work. For right now, I guess, yeah, so far it's been mostly line work. I'm going to switch now, and I'm going to go to, I don't know. Let's have some fun. Sorry. I'm having fun. I'm trying all kinds of different points. We'll see if this one works or not. It's just the ball point. I want some darker sections here at the base, and this might give me what I'm after. Most of the time that I teach, I use one point to do everything. So I'm trying to give you guys some other options. So that's nice. That's working out quite well. And I have a lot of stop spots there, guys. If you can see, come on, focus. Right there along that vein, using this point, I have a lot of stop spots. I think I can blend it out later. Thanks, guys. Yeah, let's just have some fun here. If I ruin it, you guys get to see what not to do or do differently. Totally fine. Alrighty. But yeah, a lot of airplane motion on this ballpoint because it likes to leave the stop spots. Another really cool thing that I would encourage you guys to do is if you want to work on something specific, like a feather or a tree, like we talked about in some of our past classes, put the burner down and pick up a pencil and sketch a photo. Get a reference photo like this. You can even transfer it onto a piece of paper. You don't have to freehand it. And start filling in the lights and the darks and analyze, okay, where are my lights? Where are my darks? Right now, see, I've got a nice dark along here, along this edge. Got darks at the tip. Got darks up here. We have darks in here that are nestled near that center bit. And use a pencil. That way you're not thinking so much about, oh my gosh, I overburned, or I don't like this point, I don't like that point. If you really want to get, you know, let me rephrase. If you want to have a nice way to learn wood burning is practice your values. Wood is expensive. I know that. So start on paper, just a simple pencil, and focus on your lights and your darks. Even a texture, you can get some nice texture in there too. Shading, you can just smudge it with your finger. You don't have to go through the effort of shading it manually if you're using a pencil. So very fun. Pencil work is great practice for wood burning because that's all it is. It's lights, darks, and textures. So if you ever get kind of overwhelmed, break it down and think, okay, where are my lights? Where are my darks? And what texture am I working with? Terry says, nothing to do with wood burning, but here's an interesting fact. Did you know that polar bears are actually black and their hairs are clear? Oh, wow. That is interesting. Lori Lee, you're practicing more with pencils. Cool. And it's helping. Awesome. Yeah. Pencil and paper is so flexible. You can doodle while you're waiting, someplace or on the bus or wherever. It's so versatile and it's handy just to kind of practice those lights and darks. Thanks, Mina. Yeah, we're getting some depth in here now. Remember those darks push back, the lights pull forward, and that's where we're going for our depth. So again, it's just a gradient in here. It's darker towards the center. It fades out a little bit. Definitely some airplane mode in there. This whole side of the feather is more dark than that side, so I don't need to go a whole lot more on that one. Oof. Hi, Vivian. Sorry you're not feeling well. I hope you get better soon. I know there's always so much going around this time of year. I think that my feather bits down here aren't quite long enough, so I'm going to elongate those and add a little bit more richness to the tips here and make them a little darker, longer and richer there. And yep, I completely changed the shape of this feather, and that is okay. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to match exactly. No one would ever know that this feather didn't exactly match the reference photo. So don't worry if you make a mistake, if you get off from your guidelines. That's one of the reasons that I think that wood burning geometric, no, more natural shapes like leaves, feathers, rocks, and all of that is a great way to learn, because you get your form and your shadows and all that in place. And if it turns out looking not like the reference photo, no one would ever know. So very good to practice. Good night, Candale. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you get some good sleep. Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that this is a ballpoint. Just texture and shading is all we're doing. Normally I would use the shading point, but I'm really liking this better. I think it's getting both our texture and our shading quite nicely. Okay, so now we can go to the shading point and soften things up here and there if we want to. Again, I don't want solid shading. I want to keep that lightness coming through, but I'm going to kind of close up the gaps on these feathers ever so slightly. You guys can see there. There we go. So instead of them being like individual wispy things, I am going to kind of close them up a little bit and make them more cohesive like that, just softer. Let's see, I can also do some more blending in here and fix some of these stop spots that I had showing up. Definitely had some stop spots in there. Oh, okay, I missed some things. Brian said, I think I've heard that is one thing people like mandalas is to doodle and practice drawings. Yes, absolutely. The more time that you can spend just playing with the art instead of trying to perfect the art sometimes is really helpful. Just take away the expectations and just fill an entire piece of wood with as many creations, doodles, whatever you can think of. Try to use your one point in 10 different ways, and it really challenges you to think outside the box. Yeah, and then your drawing just with a graphite pencil, that works great as well. But the more you spend with time with art, it's fantastic. It's really, really good. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, this is where I really love the fullness of a project is when we start adding in a little bit of this more softer shading. So I want to be selective. I don't want to take out all my highlights, but I want to turn it from like a bristle brush into a soft and fluffy, beautiful creation. But without that bristle brush kind of base, it's going to look too smooth. It's going to look too flat. So I suggest putting in your texture first and then your shading to top it off. Shade selectively where you really want it. But let that wood shine through. It really needs it. Nidal, all your notebooks in high school were filled with doodles. That's good. Yeah, I like transferring as well. I've done my share of freehand art over the years, and it's very time consuming. And then you're fighting and spending so much time on your proportions and, oh, this didn't look right, and erasing this and that. And I like to just skip to the fun part. And that's, you know, filling it out, putting in the texture and the value and the shading. And that's fun to me. Whereas some people, they love the proportion phase. They love getting all that stuff figured out. Okay, so now we're getting nice and a little bit softer. I think I could probably darken up some of these edges a little bit, but you can definitely see the difference between the two sides with the addition of a little bit of shading, just a touch. So we'll do that over here as well. Generally focusing on the center bit. Vivian, you had more doodles in your math notebook than assignments. Yep. I remember I was in Spanish class in high school and I got extra credit for like art projects, and there was a point where all I was doing was art in the Spanish class and doing just fine because I did so many. I was getting extra credit for all of them, and finally she said, yeah, you can't keep doing this. So I pretty well passed Spanish class by doing art. Okay, so here we are, and I kind of over exaggerated the darkness near the center, and that's okay. It's my rendition of this feather. It's okay. Next I'm going to add a touch of shading on the center section, just to kind of tone that down and make it look like it belongs. So it's not quite so stark. Okay, and then we can add a little dark thing down there. Okay. Awesome. Good night, Lori Lee. Thanks for being here tonight. Barbara, you learned Spanish songs and played them on your guitar. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Jezera, your math class had geometrics on the wall. Ah, that's cool. If you could pass the test, you didn't have to do homework. Nice. Cool. All right, so here we have kind of our base feather structure. Next up, let's start working on some of the wispy stuff here. I'm going to probably turn this. I want these to be just light and soft and kind of like down. So I'm going to use a point that gives me a softer edge. And in that case, this is going to be the shading point. Another great thing that you can try to do is get one piece of wood and make as many of a certain subject that you want, like fill it full of feathers. And that's your feather project board. And make as many bad or beautiful feathers as you possibly can think of. And just lots and lots of feathers. I know sometimes, like for me, you can sit in front of a canvas or a piece of paper or a piece of wood and you're kind of overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to ruin the art supplies. But that's what they're there for. They're there to be used and to be enjoyed. And sometimes it helps to take a practice board and right in the middle of it, draw a big old smiley face. And that's your reminder to have fun. Don't get overly concerned, and you're here just to practice and learn. And it kind of helps me to take out that little bit of fear sometimes. Have all kinds of people. Mina, you love math. That's awesome. Night Owl liked math and geography, but hated history. Yeah, I was more history and geography and art. And not so much on math. I struggled with math. So yeah, this area down here is very soft. And if you want to make it look like it's like the feathers are floating in the air, you can make them not behave consistently. You can make them like frayed. Like the air is blowing them around. That gives them a real soft, fluffy, wispy. Like if you breathe on them, they're moving. Okay. Well, let's take a look here and see where we're at. All right, you can also just go in and toss in a few more wispy things here and there towards the tips. Oh. Terry, your favorite classes were PE and gym. Awesome. Laura loved choir, art, and English. Oh. Lisa loved history and creative writing. Those are good. I like those too. Amy, you enjoyed history when the art teacher's husband would sub. Oh, cool. He was an oil painter. He'd draw the battle map on the chalkboard. How cool. Oh, that's awesome, guys. Alrighty, so let's see. We are at 7:30, and I really only anticipate this class going about an hour long, but with the extra, playing around here on the back, and maybe you can see a little bit of our structure here in this one. But this is definitely softer. I was trying to figure out how to use some of the different points and show how to use some of those. So this side is definitely more scruffy and scratchy. But then again, we didn't finish it out either. So, yeah, go ahead, just practice, play around. You can do what I did here, transfer it on the front, transfer it on the back, get all of your concerns and worries out. This is just play. We're just going to goof around, figure things out, and practice and learn. And then once you're like, okay, well, I think this point handles best in curves, or I like this one better, get all those worries out on the back side of the project. Then flip it over and try. Just try. Just start. And if you get to a point where it's like, well, I don't know if I should do this or that, I'm a little bit afraid of what to do, flip the project over and test it out. Just kind of, okay, well, that worked. This didn't work. Flip it back over and just keep going. So I hope that that helps. Really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Thanks a bunch. Yeah, if you guys have questions, definitely reach out. Thank you so much for the links there, Mina. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody being here. And then if there's any other questions, let me know. Yeah, my feather turned out differently than that one, for sure. I forgot some of those chunks. I would transfer more data on next time, but that's okay. Cool. Yeah, Lisa, I need to get together Friday's project as well. But yeah, we'll see you on Friday starting at 6 o'clock. Mina, thank you for that link there. woodburningu, the letter U, at gmail.com if you guys have any questions. Okay, cool beans. Awesome. All right, well, thanks again so much for everybody being here tonight, and I hope that you have a fantastic week. All right, good night.